All right, a very warm welcome to today's webinar, Supercharge Your Workflows with eForms. It's March 27th, Wednesday, 10 a.m. here in Mödling, very close to Vienna, Austria. So my name is Jennifer Schmitt. I'm a member of Therefore's digital engagement team. You might be familiar with me if you've attended one of our previous webinars, or if you have taken the time to go through our e-learning here, you might have also heard my voice. In any case, it's a real pleasure for me to be here with you today. I'm always excited to be able to share what I know about Therefore and spread the word. So I can't see or hear you, but I do want to interact with you. If you do have a question, please type it into the Q&A box, and I will take the time to read your question and answer it to the best of my abilities. If you do have an advanced technical question, don't be shy. My colleague Roman Jukic is on the call here today, and he'll help me answer any trickier questions that you might have. So before I get on to the main bulk of our topic today, I did want to make an announcement that we have some new courses available. First, we have end user training, which are brief 1-minute videos talking about how to use Therefore applications like the installed navigator, the web client, and Therefore Go, which is our mobile app. So those are completely free, and it's available on our homepage, therefore.net/end user training. And these videos are available in English, and most recently, they're now available in German and French as well. And I'm very pleased to announce they will also be made available in Spanish. We're just starting the process of going through translation, but they will be made available in Spanish within a couple of weeks. Second of all, we also have sales training available. Sales training is free of charge for any Canon or Canon partner organizations. If you want to go through the sales training, you're going to open up the Therefore extranet, and then you're going to add the sales training pre-course to your course catalog, and you're going to fill out this e-form here. And then by submitting the e-form, it actually starts a workflow where we can check to make sure that you are authorized, and then we'll send you an access code which will allow you to add the actual sales training course to your course list. So imagine that, e-forms and workflows right there, a real life use case. The webinar is now over. No, I'm just kidding, but it is a very good reminder that we're not just talking about theoretical uses of eForms and workflow together. We're actually using it every single day as a business ourselves in many different applications. So having talked about the many benefits already of eForms and workflows and shown you how we're using it ourselves, let's get on to the bulk of the webinar, and I'll show you the agenda. So obviously today's webinar is all about my two favorite features, eForms and workflows. So I'll talk about the workflow overview, eForms overview, combining the two together, and then some sample use cases. Now I actually do have a question because I have a lot that I could say about these two topics. And I do have a question for you on the call. I did look through the registration list, and I would like to know from you, who are you? Do you want to see more of the technical side, more tech configuration, or more demo side? Do you have a preference? So let's launch a poll here. If you go to your Zoom, you should see a poll pop up. And let's see. All right, so I'm still getting some questions in here. So I'm going to end the poll in a few more seconds. I'll give you guys 3, 2, 1, and end the poll. And now we'll share the results. So here are the results of the poll. We can see that most people are technical implementation, a few people are sales and marketing, and also we have some Therefore customers on the call too. And it looks like most people want to see some configuration and some use cases. So okay, well, in that case, I'll do my best to show a little bit of everything and try not to make the webinar be too long, because I know if these webinars run too long, they get boring. So I'll do my best to try to suit everyone's needs. So just real quick, I did want to mention that Therefore is a leader in electronic content management. We were ranked last year #1 in workflow automation, and then in 2023 we were ranked #2. So we do have a very good track record of being a ranking leader. This was a survey done by Software Reviews, where they actually asked end users and companies themselves about their experience. So it wasn't a behind closed doors evaluation. It was actually a transparent survey in which real verified users were asked about their experiences. So we did get moved from #1 to #2 in 2023. So congratulations to our competitors, but also bring it on, because we are coming with a lot of new and improved features, and we want to, of course, make our software as good as possible. But in the quadrant here that you can see, Therefore got very good marks. It's up in the top right-hand quadrant here, and it outranks many of the other competitors that you might know, including Laserfiche, mFiles, DocuWare. So we're very pleased with those results. So moving on to the actual reason, why is this an important topic? Why should we be talking about workflow and eForms using together? Well, it's simply because automation is more important than ever. So automating your business processes with workflow solutions can provide a range of benefits, including improved efficiency, compliance, collaboration, and data-driven decision-making. So businesses can automate repetitive and time-consuming tasks, such as data entry, approvals, or notifications, and that can free up employees' time for more value-added activities. So that increases the speed at which they can actually complete their work. It reduces errors and improves the overall quality of work. But it also increases employee satisfaction. I mean, imagine you have knowledgeable accountants who are just spending their time copying data from one program to another. I mean, that's a terrible use of their really vast knowledge and their time, right? So by automating what can be automated, you're going to have a much better experience for your results, but also for your employees. You can also gain insights and data about how the work is being done. By tracking and monitoring the flow of work, businesses can identify bottlenecks, track performance, and measure the impact of process changes. And we'll show you exactly how that's done in Therefore. Plus, you can also provide better visibility and control over business processes, especially when it comes to compliance and governance. So when you have a workflow in Therefore, you can really ensure that those steps are always being done in a consistent and predictable manner every single time. That's extremely important, especially in industries where compliance and regulation are very tightly regulated. This is healthcare, for example, or accounting, finance. So very many good reasons why this should be of interest to everyone. Now, and Therefore, the workflow is configured using drag and drop. There's a workflow designer, and you put the various tasks on the page and then connect them together using transitions. This means that you can easily create different paths, escalation routes, and exceptions, and users get notifications for new, expiring, and overdue tasks. And the workflow history allows for a play-by-play overview, where you can exactly see what happens at every stage. And you can create workflows for a single document or an entire case. And you can also integrate workflows using REST API with other apps. So REST is a communication protocol. It's extremely common nowadays, and it's a very fast and easy way that allows you to get information to and from Therefore with that other REST-enabled app. I did go ahead and prepare a brief video that talks about these workflow benefits and use and kind of shows you how workflow can be configured. So I'll go ahead and share that now with you. Therefore, workflow is one of the most powerful and flexible features you will ever see. In this video, we want to explore the features in greater detail
so that you can feel confident discussing workflow with your customers at length. Workflows are always based on the specific needs of the customer. So the first step is always to understand and optimize the process before configuring it in Therefore. Every workflow in Therefore is made up of individual tasks. Administrators simply drag and drop the tasks in the designer and connect them together using transitions. Many different types of tasks exist, both for manual and automatic actions. Automatic tasks are done by the system without any human intervention. For example, automatic tasks that will wait for a certain period of time, send an email, or update index information. Manual tasks are used when a user needs to make a decision or perform a certain action. For example, a user might need to make a decision if an applicant should be offered a job or determine how to answer a message from a contact form. Multiple paths can be created to allow tasks to be completed at the same time. Users get notifications when a new task has been assigned to them, either by email or in Teams. And they can easily check where a workflow is in the process at any time. If a user forgets to do a task, the system will send them follow-up emails and notify their managers if any tasks are overdue. Managers can also identify bottlenecks and get precise statistics using reports. Best of all, Workflow can also integrate with many other apps and programs using REST calls. For example, information can be sent and received to and from third-party systems like QuickBooks, Sage, or Xero. So in sum, Therefore Workflow is the ideal companion for any company, process, or team looking to add efficiency, visibility, and productivity to their daily tasks.
All right, so that was just a little brief intro kind of to what workflow is and how it's configured. So I hope that was interesting and not too overwhelming for those of you who are new to Therefore and Therefore Workflow, but that did cover many of the different options that we have, how workflow is configured using tasks, and how the benefits that we talked about workflow can be achieved with the workflow that we have. So we showed the statistics, we showed the workflow history, we showed how it's configured, the notifications. So you can see there's a lot of different options in there. And of course, we also have eForms. So eForms are electronic forms that are configured using drag and drop. They are included completely free with every type of Therefore license that you can buy. They can be used both by internal users, meaning users who have a Therefore user account, as well as external users who don't have a Therefore user account. And this means that eForms are well suited to gather information from people outside of your company as well. So you can use them for job applications, for surveys, for feedback forms, really anything that you can think of. They're responsive and mobile friendly, so they help you streamline information input. They're easy to set up, easy to use. I mean, I love eForms. I have a degree in political science. Let me tell you, I've never studied computer science in my entire life, but when I do an eForm, I feel like a computer programmer. So if I can do it, you can do it as well. So definitely don't be scared of doing eForms yourself at any level of technical expertise, because you can do it for sure. And they also have secured controlled access. You can precisely define as an administrator which users are allowed to create eForms, which users can access your eForms, or if the eForm is available to the general public. And then furthermore, you can customize the eForms using CSS HTML, so you can change the colors and fonts that are displayed. And then you can also use JavaScript, which allows complex logic operations and scripting to be used as well. So it's a really amazing tool. The possibilities really are endless. So of course, if you have the combination, so here this is a sample on the right here, a screenshot of a eForm that you might be familiar with as well. You saw the eForm that we used to get access control for the sales training. This one is for the extranet. So some of you might be familiar with our extranet. Actually, all of you should be. That's the platform that we use for communication with Canon and our Canon partners, extranet.therefore.net. And when you want to get an account, you have to fill out this eForm, and that again starts a workflow process for us. So another example of how we use the great combination of eForm and workflow in our daily lives. But there's many other applications as well for workflows and eForms. They allow you to streamline data collection. You can eliminate manual data entry and errors. The eForms can pre-populate fields. They have conditional logic, so if you select one option, another question will come. There's also validation rules to help ensure that users enter their data correctly. They're accessible on mobile devices, so you can initiate workflows and submit data from the mobile device. This allows for on-the-go information capture and process initiation, improving efficiency and responsiveness. Data accessibility, it's extremely easy and accessible. They're integrated with all features of Therefore, so you have the data available on the go. And eForms can be used as index data in Therefore, so you can take advantage of the simple and powerful permissions to hide sensitive data or make it only available in certain steps of the process. And finally, audit trail tracking and audit trail. The eForms create a clear record of who submitted what information and when, and that provides a valuable audit trail for the workflow process, ensuring transparency and accountability and simplifying compliance with relevant regulations. So a very, very good combination. Technically, how does that combination work? If you have an eForm, the eForm is collecting the data. The eForm can be used by users without a Therefore account. So the eForm is the starting process. The eForm data is then saved to a Therefore category. And of course, the Therefore category can only be accessed by Therefore users, so users who have a Therefore account with the correct permissions. And from that point on, that's when the workflow would be initiated. So the workflow is always initiated from the category. So you can have a workflow start automatically as soon as the data is saved to that category, or you can set it up so that the workflow is only started on a manual basis. In any case, the category is always intermediary. If a user adds or changes index data during the workflow process, that will be then saved to the category. So the eForm is really just the start. Then we have the category, which is the main repository of all the information. And then the workflow is the electronic process that manages the processing of whatever information came in. I'm just going to check if there's any questions. I don't see any questions yet, so that's great. And what kind of use cases does this allow you to have? Well, and many. Number one, I'd say, is recruiting. This is also another process that we use ourselves. Leave requests, expense reimbursement, purchase orders, equipment maintenance requests, and local government forms. So the ones that we choose here to list are just some of the most common ones that we've seen our customers interacting with, but there are many more. And I have a list here of even more possible scenarios where you could use an eForm together with a workflow. And there's only 4 categories here: HR, finance, operations, and compliance. And yet there's already 20 processes listed. So take the time to think about how you're working or your customers are working. And I bet that you can find even more situations where the combination of an eForm with a workflow would be of benefit to them. I'm not going to read through all of these separate ones. I'll make the slides available afterwards, and you guys can look at this and think about it for yourself. So now this brings me to my use case and demos, which is probably one of the most interesting aspects for everyone here on the call. Because I know we have a wide range of interest and user levels, I'm going to try to sit between the worlds of somebody who's very new to workflow and somebody who's an experienced workflow. So I have 2 demos that I've prepared for this webinar. One is for a job application workflow, which I think many of you are familiar with, and the other one is for local government, like a permit application. So HR is extremely versatile, and it's something that we're all familiar with, because let's face it, in the past 15 years, all of us have only applied for jobs using an online application form. And it's something that I know from experience for businesses, it is extremely time consuming. It's a huge hassle when you have to hire someone new, because it takes away from your usual jobs. And you, at the same time, you want to make a really good impression on all your candidates. You want to make sure that they get followed up with in a timely and correct manner. You want to make sure that all your applicants are going through the correct process and getting a response. Even if it's a negative response, you want to make sure that nobody is let fallen through the cracks. So that is why we've chosen these two demos. And also from a learning side, these are actually really good learning demos as well, because they do cover workflows that are both interesting but also easy to configure. So even if you're new to the world of configuring, therefore, I think that these are both examples that you can understand very quickly and easily. So first one that I'm going to go through is the HR application. So what you see on my screen is you see a screenshot here of the eForm, which starts the application process, where the applicants enter in their information. That information is then saved to therefore, and that automatically starts a workflow, because then we know we have to process their application. The first task that you see up here is reviewing the CV. This person reviews it and he says, is it okay? Or is it complete garbage? If it's complete garbage, they can immediately go down the right-hand rejection path, in which case the applicant, the status on the application is updated to reject. This little icon here is the index field is being changed. Then it waits a little bit, and then a manual task, somebody is giving the task of informing the applicant that they've been rejected. On the other side, this is the happy side, if everything is okay. It will go then to a first round interview. If after the first round, we think this is the most amazing applicant ever, it can actually go immediately to giving an offer. And that's just because sometimes you get applicants that are so amazing, like the best applicant ever. You don't need to have a second round with them. You can give them an application or an offer immediately. Otherwise, it goes to a second round. And then after the second round, they can also decide to reject the candidate, or they can decide to make an offer. So this is a really easy and well-known process. It's something that we use ourselves and many of our customers use as well. So do you guys have any experience using a similar workflow or similar application? No comments, but that's fine. Then the second demo that I have is for the permit application. And this is a demo which is used for local town government. I think most local town governments, as far as I'm aware, are very conservative. They tend to still be very paper-based, very manual process-oriented. I know in a few Nordic countries, Finland, Sweden, Estonia, they're extremely modern and have a lot of electronic records and have a lot of good workflow. But at least in my experience, I know from my personal history of renovating my house. I have a 100-year-old house, and so I've done a lot of home renovations. Anytime I had to apply for a permit, it's the only thing that seems to be electronic is that I can send an email to my local town government, and they'll send me an email back with like a PDF attached. But there is no workflow, and when I go there, they actually still have all of these paper binders there. So they could definitely benefit from a more of an electronic document management system. And so what we have here is we have a sample workflow of like a permit application. And so what you see here, it starts off with an electronic form for a permit application where you can fill out your information. And that immediately then goes to the workflow. So the first person checks, is the application complete, or is it, again, is there something obviously wrong with it? They can send it down the rejection path. So all of the right-hand side, again, is the rejection side. If it's okay, it goes on to a split here. So what you see here, this little icon with the purple dots, it's called a split task. It basically just takes the workflow and splits it into two paths so that two people can work on it, or two or more people can work on it in parallel. And so here we have the parallel tasks. We have somebody from the building code compliance needs to okay it, and somebody from the zoning compliance needs to okay it. If one of them, if they both say it's okay, then it'll continue going down the okay path, which is the happy side, and everything will work. If one of them rejects it, here is a reject, or here's the reject, then the entire application is rejected, and it'll go here and be denied. This here is the exception merge. So this means if either one of them says reject, the whole application is rejected, and the workflow will end that way. If they both say okay, it's going to go be merged back here again, and it's going to go to this guy here. This guy can then say everything's okay and we can issue the permit and everything's done, or he can say we need to schedule an inspection, which is this side here. So in order to schedule an inspection, he has to enter an inspection date. So what you see here, this text here is coming from therefore. We've written a condition on this transition saying the inspection date is not null, meaning it cannot be empty. And that's to ensure that the inspection actually occurs, so that nobody can say there has to be an inspection without actually confirming that a date has been created. It's kind of a fail-safe to ensure that people are doing their job correctly. Then there's a wait task here, this little sand clock is a wait task. It waits until the inspection date, and then the date is cleared, and this guy here then does the inspection, and he can then say it's okay, you can issue the permit, or it can be rejected. The third path is that he has to say, okay, well, we have to do a new inspection, there was some minor issues that can be fixed, and then I'll go back here and loop around. The only other part of the path that I haven't explained yet is this part here, visit required. And on the category, there's a little checkbox. If somebody checks the box visit required, then a site visit is required here, and which can then go over here, or it can be rejected then. So again, a little bit more complicated. As you can see, there's a lot more conditions and a lot more different paths. But overall, this workflow is also not an advanced workflow. There is no scripting involved. There's no programming involved. This is this level of workflow that you can do too, okay? You can learn very easily how to create this level of workflow, I promise you. So I'm now going to open up my demo system. Oh, there's a Q&A. On the application process, where there is an additional task, permit application inspection required, I believe here, does that appear as a drop-down on his action buttons for him to forward to the next step? Yes, exactly. So I'll try to show you this in the demo now. What I was doing here is just showing you the general story of what we're trying to accomplish, and then I'll now show you from the user side. And if I have time, I can also open up the solution designer and show you how that was configured. So every time that you see a manual task here with these two transitions, we write in the transitions what the two options are. So if this guy here, it's at the site visit task, he's going to have the option to either select reject, or he's going to say move on to issue permit. So this guy here has these two choices here. Same for this guy here. He actually has three choices. He says he has a choice to either have a new inspection, to reject the application, or to issue the permit. I know that the arrows are hard to see and what direction they're going, but every time you have a manual task, the options, the number of arrows that are coming out of that task indicate the number of choices that the person will have when processing the workflow. Does that make sense? That's a very good question. I hope I can further answer it now as I do the demo. I'm just checking the time. It's 10:30 right now. I know webinars tend to get boring right around the 30-minute mark. So I'm going to show you this permit application workflow. because I think the job application workflow is pretty clear. And if you guys are really keen to see the job application workflow in process, apply for a job at Therefore. You can check our website or LinkedIn or forward the application to a friend of yours because that is, like I said, an actual use case that we're using ourselves. All right, so I have my demo system open here. I hope that I haven't been logged out yet. Now I'm going to open up my eForms demo and the deck permit application I have here. So I'm going to fill out the eForm here. And we're going to use our Moya. There we go. And this is going to be Kathy Garcia at Moya where. Now you'll see here that we had some conditions on here. So until I put in a legitimate email address, you could see that it wasn't letting me submit. And now I have project information. We'll do length and width. Doesn't matter. And now this is also very interesting. So we have some JavaScript here calculating the permit fee. It says the building permit fees are calculated based on the total valuation of the work. Enter the total valuation below to automatically calculate the permit fees. So anything that's valued between $1 and $1,000 is $25 minimum. For every 1,000, it's $5. So if I enter 1,000, you can see the permit fee is 25. And then if I enter 2,000, you can see it's 35, right? And now if I go to something like 50,000, the permit fee is $275. So this was calculated using JavaScript. And I can show you where to enter that when I open up the Solution Designer. Now, the rest of these here, approved architect or engineer, I'm not going to enter that right now, is the application of the property owner. If I say yes, I can continue. If I say no, then I have to have more information. And that's also a condition that can be added. The name of the contractor, we'll just say, again. And now we can upload a survey of the project here. So I have a simple survey here on my desktop. I'll just drop it in. And then I have a signature box here that I can add. There we go. And I can submit the form. Cool. And now this type of form can easily be embedded on a website, or it can be sent out as a link. As you saw, we have embedded eForms, for example, on our e-learning training when people want to request access. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my inbox here on the dynamic web view. And if I go to my workflow inbox, I can actually see I have a new inbox here in my deck, my permit applications. Now, this workflow task has been assigned to myself. So I will open this up here. And I can see the permit application and I can see the sample survey. And so now, for the purpose of this demo, I will approve the first step. Now, if you remember the screenshot that I had showed you, after the initial check, it split off into two. So let's go again, let's refresh. And now you can see there's two tasks, the building code conformance and the zoning compliance. Remember, in an actual production system, this would be two separate people. But I will approve it. And now here again is the submission. And let's review the index data. Now, if I click site visit required, this is going to start the sub little loop process, show you. If I click that box, it's going to go over here where it has to, it's going to go over here by site visit, and it's going to require an additional site visit. And that's just done by clicking that additional box. So let me go back to my screen here. So let me click site visit required, and then I'm going to approve it. And then we'll go. And now I'm here in inbox. And now I can say, now it's moved on. And now there are two issues again. I can either say inspection needed or permit issued. So it means it's traveled from here to here. And I can either say issue permit or I can reject. So let's go through the happy path here and say permit issued. And the workflow is done. On the back end, if I open up the solution designer, I'll quickly show you how to configure the workflow because it is kind of fun. So this is the workflow. I hope you can see my screen still. Yeah, it looks good to me. So the first step here is just a manual task. And then here was a split task. And this basically just split it into the two paths. Then I have a rejection here. This is the exception merge. This goes to the rejection side. And then here's the two tasks in parallel. And then this is the merge task, which merges the tokens back into one single case. On the site visit, what we have here is we have a condition, says site visit required. If this has been checked, this is an index field. And with a box. If that index field is checked, it has a value of 1. So if we go to the, let me show you the actual repository here, the demo. So this is the category. And you can see here, site visit required, this is a checkbox. So if this checkbox has been checked, then it goes through that extra loop. On the inspection date, this is another index field that also is mentioned a little bit later. So going back to the workflow here, deck permit applications, we have manual tasks, which are these blue ones that indicates that somebody has to do an action. Here we have the inspection date is not null. So this is, again, the inspection date is the name of that index field, and is not null is a statement that we can use, a condition to say it has to be filled out. It's a way of ensuring that users actually have all the correct information before making a decision in the workflow. And that can be used as a fail-safe, kind of to ensure that everything is going smoothly. Good. And then this task here, it waits for the inspection date. So whatever date is entered in that field, it will wait until then the inspection will occur. And then this user here has 3 options. Either they can issue the permit, pass, they can reject the permit after the inspection, or they can go back and have another chance at the inspection. So what you see here is a workflow with a couple of different paths, a little bit of conditions on the transitions. But overall, again, it's not a complicated workflow to configure. You really don't need to know any type of programming or scripting. It's really just adding the different therefore tasks in the correct order and testing it. Cool. So that is the workflow and the job application form we also have here on on the workflow, I'll show you the job application form really quick. So here's the job application. Again, a very, very simple workflow, but a really efficient one because, again, it's used all the time whenever we have job applications because it just helps us ensure that all the applicants are given a fair shot. We know exactly at what stage every application is. But I'm not going to show you this one in detail because we're a little bit short on time. So having gone through the demo now, and so having gone through these demos, I do want to let you guys know that much more is possible, and it is fun and easy to learn how to do both eForms and workflows. Check out our e-learning if you have access to the extranet. Sign up for e-learning, go through the e-learning courses. We have 3 on workflow, workflow 1, 1, 2, and 3, and eForms 1 and 2. It will show you how to do workflows for cases, custom scripting, integration with REST API, it's the level 3, using CSS and eForms, triggers, and JavaScript tags. So there is a lot more that you can learn, and I'm sure that you will be of great benefit to you. Before I go, I do want to mention that a lot more is coming in the future. We have Therefore 2024, which is version 31, launching April 31st of this year. This means our refresher training, which is the e-learning covering all of the new features, will be launched on April 31st. We have an experts update, which is a webinar for the technical staff with our developers showing off all the new features. So if you really want to get to know everything from a very deep technical background with the development team, join our experts update April 9th. And we have launch webinars then starting in May, and the launch webinars will coincide with the dates that the Therefore online servers are updated. To get invites for all of these events and much more, sign up for our mailing list, which is therefore.net/newsletter. And finally, don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn and check out our YouTube channel. I will be posting the recording of today's event over on YouTube, so check that out. And if you have any questions or comments, you can send me an email, jennifer.schmitt with 2 T's at therefore.net or media@therefore.net. Thank you guys so much for joining and taking the time out of your busy day to spend the morning with me. I really appreciate it. I do have one more question here. And it says, is it possible to issue a workflow task with an instruction to fill out and submit a specific eForm? The link to the eForm or pre-filled eForm should be clickable directly from the workflow task. Yes. So you can do that. Let me show you. So if I were to make, here is a sample manual task. Review the application and choose to either schedule or reject the application. What I would do is I would just say, please fill out the following form. Now, the only issue that I think there is that in the user information, the HTML is not fully enabled. But I think what you could do actually as a workaround is you could, in the email setup, you could add a link to the eForm here, but you would need to add the HTML tags to make it clickable. I believe that's the one restriction. Roman, do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, you can, basically there is a macro where you can, or directly like a URL inside of the.
Yeah, I don't think, no, there's not a macro for the eForms though. So you would need to add the tag to make it clickable with the, I think I don't see any macros for eForms, but web click, document link, no, only a document link. But yeah, it is basically possible. How can you handle access control and password control through the eForm without coding the password onto the URL? So that's a very good question. So if you're sending out a workflow task to a user, that user automatically must have a therefore user account. And so in that case, you don't need to handle that because only users who have a therefore user account can access a therefore eForm or a workflow task, can only access a therefore workflow task, right? So that's issue is handled. If you are making an eForm publicly accessible, you're making an eForm available anonymously. So that's if you're going, for example, in this eForm here, this one has anonymous access, as you can see here. This means this eForm is available to people who do not have a therefore username and password. In that case, the users who access the eForm do not have the rights to access workflow because workflow is only for therefore users. Does that make sense? So you don't need to, so that's a clear distinction. Users who do not have a therefore account can only enter information onto an eForm, but they cannot process workflow tasks. And if your user has a therefore user account, then you can very easily go through the permissions in eForms here through security, and you can enter the groups and usernames and the types of accounts that are available to the users for that specific eForm. All right, I hope that was clear. Peter, is the HTML formatter and workflow and email messages coming soon? I hope. I ask for it every day. I have, unfortunately, no knowledge of when the HTML formatter is coming, Peter. It is my biggest wish and dream to have HTML formatting in the send email task. But yeah, I will talk to Peter and Stefan and I'll say, please, it's not just me. The other people in therefore want to have HTML formatting and workflow and email messages. So yeah. I hope so. I don't see any other questions or comments. I think it's a development. I know it's something they were working on, but at the moment, a lot of development resources are going into the new web client to bring it fully up to feature parity with the installed client. So that's our main development focus right now. So I don't know when it's coming. I just hope it's coming soon. All right, that's it. I don't see any more questions, so I'm going to stop the webinar for now. And I just wanted to say once again, guys, thank you so much for participating and your questions and interacting. I hope this was beneficial to you. If you guys have future requests for types of webinars that you want to see, do you want to see more technical things? Do you want to have a webinar on like configure with me where you learn how to configure something, or do you want to have a webinar that talks more about scripting? Let me know, send me an email, and I'll be very happy to try to make your wishes come true. In the meantime, have a wonderful Easter coming up soon, and we'll talk to you in the next webinar to learn more about the features in Therefore 2024. So have a good week and see you next time.